Hello and welcome, my name is Thomas, and in this video, we're going to be talking about Blockbuster. Today, just about every form of video content is streamed. We have services like Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, Amazon Prime, YouTube, and that list grows regularly. However, there was a time in the not-too-distant past where video was consumed much differently than it is now. Most of us are well familiar with DVDs, even though they continue to give way to those previously mentioned streaming services. But if we were to rewind to 1985, we would find ourselves in a time when the act of rewinding was a normal part of watching videos at home. Unlike today, however, if you wanted to watch a video, you had to leave the comfort of your home, find a video store, drive there, make your selection, and then return to watch it. During this time, however, video stores were relatively small, carrying a pretty limited selection of videos, leaving something of a dice roll for those visiting as to if they would find the video they were looking for or not. But on October 19th, 1985, in Dallas, Texas, a man by the name of David Cook opened a store of unprecedented size within the neighborhood of 8,000 VHS tapes and a computerized checkout process. The name of the store was Blockbuster. Cook's flagship Blockbuster was an overwhelming success, a success that allowed him to add 3 additional stores a year later. In 1987, Cook sold part of the company to a group of investors and shortly thereafter left Blockbuster, where Wayne Huizenga, one of those investors, took over. Blockbuster's headquarters were then moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where Huizenga began an aggressive expansion strategy. This strategy included opening up a growing number of new stores while buying up old video store chains in the process. In 1988, Blockbuster became the US's leading video store chain with over 800 stores and expanded to over 1,000 by the early 90s. In 1994, however, things took another drastic turn for Blockbuster when the company was bought by Viacom for $8.4 billion, who took the company public and even expanded it more rapidly to over 6,000 stores globally. But in 1997, however, ripples began to appear in the smooth sailing the Blockbuster franchise had encountered up to this point. Founded by Reed Hastings, a new company by the name of Netflix surfaced claiming to reinvent the video rental experience. If you're fortunate enough to have experienced the process of renting a video, whether VHS or DVD, there's a pretty good chance you're well familiar with the concept of late fees. Aside from that little "Be Kind Rewind" sticker you would occasionally receive on VHS tapes, late fees were a big part of the experience. When you rented your video or video game, which they also had plenty of as well,
Ever feel like finding video games is harder than playing them? Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. The Holiday Gift Center at Blockbuster. They've got great games at great prices. Then just ask your kids for lessons. So take care of everybody on your list. Make it a Blockbuster holiday.
you'd receive a due date, typically in the neighborhood of a week. Now, if you were late in returning the video, you would get a late fee. The fee itself would vary pretty greatly. Sometimes the video was just automatically renewed for another week or so, and other times you may have to pay up to full rental price for each day the video was late. There were a ton of variables in terms of how much you would have to pay. However, whether or not you experienced late fees is not too hard to see how they were not a fan favorite. As it turns out, it was these very fees that led to the creation of Netflix. Netflix founder Reed Hastings was prompted to create the company as a result of a $40 fee he had to pay. Like many others, he wasn't excited having to pay a fee that was more than if he had just purchased the movie outright. To fight the tyranny of late fees, Netflix adopted a unique model where they would charge you a flat monthly rate and then send your rental DVD by mail. This meant that no longer did you even need to leave your house, and best of all, no late fees. In 2000, Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million. However, the company decided to decline in a decision that would ultimately seal their fate. It's unclear exactly how much of a factor late fees played into the decision-making process. However, Blockbuster made $100 million in late fees, or 16% of its revenue. To make matters worse, however, another competitor popped up by the name of Redbox. Redbox had compact, self-serve kiosks that allowed customers to make quick rentals, and again, with no late fees. Despite the rising trend of no late fee video renting, it wasn't until 2004 that Blockbuster finally dropped late fees and launched Blockbuster Online. However, by that time, it was too little, too late. It was estimated that it would cost the company $200 million to end late fees and another $200 million to start the new online venture. According to an account in the Harvard Business Review, former Blockbuster CEO accounted, "I decided to join Blockbuster for a few reasons. I liked the brand. I saw a lot that could be fixed quickly, and I didn't believe that technology would threaten the company as fast as critics thought. Blockbuster was by far the biggest video rental company, but its market share was only 25%. To me, that was an opportunity." Antioco went on in the article to discuss a number of the internal struggles with shareholders. However, the company's demise became more and more an inevitability as time went on. According to Forbes, Blockbuster lost around 75% of its market value from 2003 to 2005, and finally filed for bankruptcy in 2010. Stores continued to close until today, where there remains a single location in Bend, Oregon, which has been transformed, oddly enough, into an Airbnb. Somewhere along the way, Blockbuster lost sight of what their brand was and what it was not, or rather, what it should be. Regardless of the intent, Blockbuster ended up with a brand that represented a video rental store rather than what it could have been, which is everyone's source for movies. The difference is that the first ends as soon as a particular way of movie watching does. The second, however, can adapt to just about any medium or technology. So that's an interesting bit of recent history. However, what does that mean for creators? After all, we're not all running multi-million-dollar companies with thousands of locations or charging people late fees. While it's true, creators do something very similar to what Blockbuster was trying to do, which was to tether itself to a particular way of consuming content, hoping and assuming that people would continue as they always did. Some may say, well, sure, we have video streaming nowadays, and that's not going anywhere anytime soon, right? And while that may be true to some extent, that depends upon where, or rather on behalf of whom, you're streaming or creating your content. Think about this. So often you hear about content creators who label themselves after the platforms on which they become popular. Hey, I'm a TikTok personality, or a YouTuber, or a Twitch streamer, or an Instagram influencer, and the list goes on and on. But creators tethering themselves to a particular platform is very much akin to Blockbuster making itself a video rental store. If you don't think it happens to content too, just ask all those people who became popular on Vine, only to never be heard from again once the platform shut down. Don't get me wrong, platforms do something that most of us could never do on our own, and that is build an audience. However, becoming reliant on a single platform for the ability to earn an income and interact with all the fans on whom you rely? That sounds a little to me like building a late fee driven video rental store in the late 1990s. Instead, it's important that anyone who's trying to build a personal brand become known for what they're creating and who they're creating it for, rather than the name of the giant corporation who's giving them the privilege to do so. So as always, if you found this video useful, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.